our initial instincts, our initial reaction is going to be self-preservation first over our fellow man, which is completely the opposite of what people think of when they think of utopia. And they think in utopia, they think that your fellow man's watching out for you. I'm sorry, that's not how human beings work. We are pack animals. We are tribal creatures, which means we bond into packs and we bond into tribes, not because we care about the other people in the tribe. It's because we know that the tribe can take care of us. That's what makes us tribal. Just like wolves, just like lions, right? That's why we come together, because we see a benefit for ourselves when we're together.
How do people gain your trust?
I don't know that people gain my trust very well.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, the number of people that I trust, I mean, I can count them on my two hands. And when I think about the people that I trust, it's really more, who do I trust to do certain things? There are some people I trust to actually have my back no matter what happens. My wife is one of those people. No matter what happens, I know she's got my back. Then there's other people that I trust, but maybe just short of anything, right? Somebody says something shitty about me on the internet, somebody will back me up. Somebody takes me to court, some guys will back me up, but not all of them.
Was it like that before the CIA too?
No. Yeah. So the CIA does a great job of kind of helping you to understand your own flawed points of view. Like most of our values, our preferences, our ideas about how the world works, most of them actually are conditioned into us through childhood. So they're conditioned into us by what we see from our parents, what we see in our family, what we see on television or in the movies, what we learn in church, what we see in school from other children. That kind of conditions us to be the way we are. So when you are brought up in an environment that's maybe public school with a little bit of, church on Sunday 2 or 3 times a week, let's say, now you're being raised to kind of inherently believe that people are gracious and people are kind and people are, you're supposed to do things to help each other and you're supposed to work together and teamwork makes the dream work, right? And you're conditioned to believe that stuff. Well, all it takes is a child that's raised somewhere differently. Maybe not in a public school, but in a private school. This is a fantastic example when you consider public school students versus private school students for the very wealthy. Have you ever wondered why it is that the children of the very wealthy have a higher success rate in terms of long-term success than the children of the not so wealthy? It's because the children of the wealthy go to school where wealthy people send their kids. Mm-hmm. They grow up around wealthy kids who are also raised by wealthy parents who are surrounded by wealth. Yeah. Exactly. So they learn very early on. You got to pick who you choose. There's a whole group of people that are worse than you. They're poorer than you. They're needier than you. They're not going to have the opportunities you have, but they're also raised with that idea that you have a responsibility. You have to take care of the wealth that your mother and I have made. You have to take care of the family name that your father and your grandfather's grandfather before him built, right? So they're still messed up in their own way, but they're conditioned differently. They still need that pack, but they're conditioned differently.
You're saying, like, you've obviously seen this because you didn't grow up that way.
No, I grew up. I was the poor kid that grew up in a rural part of Pennsylvania that believed we were all going to come together and do the right thing because it was the right thing.
Oh, you did believe that?
I did believe that. Yeah, that's how I grew up, and I believe that. That's what took me into the military. And then when the military was disappointing to me, all those times where I did the right thing, but it still was somehow the wrong thing to do. Right?
Do you have an example of that?
Yeah. So I went to the Air Force Academy.
Yep.
And I was there's 2 ways to get to the Air Force. There's 2 ways to get into a military academy. The first way is you meet all the requirements right out of high school and you go right into your freshman year. The other way is you miss some of those requirements, but you still are a good candidate. So they send you to something called the military prep school, which is a 1-year preparatory school so that you can get yourself up to those requirements before you go into the mainstream academy. So I went to the Air Force Academy prep school because I did not have all the requirements I needed when I graduated high school. So during that year, I took it very seriously because I was like, this is my chance to like go to a great school and get out of Pennsylvania and all this other stuff. I did my best with my grades. I did my best to keep myself military disciplined and physically active and all the stuff that I had to do. And I was doing great. I made it to the place where by the end of my time at the prep school, I was the second in command of the prep school because it's student led, right? So of the, whatever it was, 400 students there, I was second in command of all of them. And then finals week came. And during finals week, I walked into my dorm room. I was doing a bunch of stuff that I had to do as the second in command of the school, administrative stuff. And I walk into my dorm room and I see my roommate is drinking underage with like 3 or 4 other friends in the dorm room at the prep school on a military base during finals week. What do you think is the military school's policy on underage drinking in the dorm room?
I'm going to say you're not allowed to do that.
Zero tolerance. Zero tolerance. So we are all told, we're told and we're trained, and everything you read and everything you sign says as soon as you see it.
Did you narc on him?
That's exactly what I did. Guess what? It was the right thing that got me in all kinds of trouble.
Oh, it got you in trouble?
Got me in tons of trouble.
For narking on him?
Yep, because I went...
Serves you right.
So this is... No, dude, you're fucking with me, but it's laughable to you.
Yeah.
Because you were not conditioned like I was conditioned. Right? To me, this was a clear-cut, simple thing. They're drinking underage in the dorm room. Everything that I've been trained at in the year before this event happened, because remember, I've been in the military academy for a year now, right? Plus getting through high school and everything else, my church background, blah, 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 all that stuff together. I was like, oh, this is very clearly, they are making a bad decision because of whatever reason, right? But my obligation, my moral obligation here is to turn them in. So I did exactly what my moral obligation told me to do. I went, I pulled my roommate out first, right? Hey, can I talk to you for a second in the hallway? In the hallway. Hey, you're breaking the rules. This is something we can't do. I am the number 2 cadet in charge of the entire school right now, right? I don't really want to have to turn you in. What I would much prefer is if you can't close this party down, get rid of the liquor, and then go tell like the officer in command that weekend. Just go tell them what happened. You self-report, then we're good to go. I've done my obligation because I've told you to self-report. You've done your obligation because you have self-reported, and nobody else in the room gets in trouble because you self-reported, right? You know what my roommate said to that?
Go fuck yourself.
What are you gonna do? You gonna narc on us? You gonna turn us in? I was like, dude, I don't want to, but this is what I have to do. So as if that wasn't awkward enough to find them, and then that wasn't awkward enough to have that conversation and get shot down by my roommate, then I go talk to the fucking officer in charge. And when I sit in the room with the officer in charge, I'm like, hey, this is what I just saw. That dude looks at me and he's like, you're turning in your roommate? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. He's like, dude, haven't you ever heard of like loyalty and cooperate to graduate? And I'm like, yeah, I've heard of all those things, but like, this is what you guys told us to do. And he's like, well, now that you've reported it to me, I have to do something with it, right? Again, making it my fault. Now that you've told me, I have to do something with this. So here's how it's going to work. You can go back to your roommate and you can tell him to self-report. And if he self-reports, then, he gets to stay, you get to stay, but everybody who was drinking with him and didn't self-report has to leave. Like finals week, they're gone. He's like, or if he doesn't self-report, he leaves, but the people that he covers for stays. And I'm like, this is bullshit. Go back to my roommate. I lay it out for him. And he says the same thing. He's like, fuck you, Andy. This is bullshit. And I'm like, well, I've done everything I can do. I am very confused right now by a zero tolerance policy that clearly has tolerance and that somehow I'm the villain in all this. But I'm going to try to figure this out on my own. So the way that ended, he never turned himself in. He got kicked out of the Air Force Academy prep school the week of finals. The 5 or 6 other people drinking with him were never turned in. They graduated. They went on to then continue at the Air Force Academy. I have no idea what happened to him. And I kind of carried that scarlet letter for the entire 4 years I was at the Air Force Academy. Everybody knew me as the guy that turned in my roommate. And of course, I had 6 other guys who were more than happy to share that story with everybody about how I turned in my roommate. So that's some bullshit, dude. And that's what I'm talking about. We don't actually know how shit works. People lie to us, we believe it, and we shouldn't. Don't be part of the 80% that fail New Year's resolutions by February 1st. Click on the link in the description instead.